at this juncture what may be in here. So it's a bit of a stop-start, chicken and egg, etc., etc. Finally, and Phil will mention this as well, but I want to stress this is draft. It is not intended to be anywhere near the standard that is taken forward to the final consultation and to an examiner. We recognise that there are defined ways and very good practices for writing planning policy and for laying out planning policy. We get that, we know it, but to get to that stage has a cost, financially and in time. And what we don't want to do is employ the people and spend the money to make things look perfect, when at the moment there's still a dialogue going on. We prefer to have the dialogue, iron things out, put new issues in, and then we can work on perfection. So please take it as it's intended. It's not intended to be perfect, it is a working document. Right, so anyway, that's enough from me. I would like to hand over to Phil to present the draft policy framework.
Hello, good evening, and welcome. Somebody famous once said, Mr. Frost. Just very briefly, this is the outline of our borough, and these are all of the designated neighbourhood forums that are in existence today, of which the Ascot and Sunninghill Forum is the only current designated forum that has actually completed this neighbourhood planning process and gone to referendum and has a plan in place. The Windsor neighbourhood plan and the Central Windsor neighbourhood plan are the two most advanced neighbourhood plans for the rest of the borough in terms of where we're at in the whole process. So, you know, great work with our neighbours and great work from what we've committed so far as a group of steering group within the town centre. With the central plan, obviously we have the castle, which is a business, and its respective grounds, which is what takes up the majority of this map here. And then obviously we have the Central Windsor Business District, which is where we have the predominance of businesses, as well as obviously residents and the very reasons for our existence, because this is where the majority of business ratepayers are based within Windsor, along with a number of residents, and by having the designated business forum enables both residents and business ratepayers to actually have a vote in this process, which is something sadly amiss in the generic neighbourhood plan policies. Just a very quick history lesson. There are others in this room better placed than me. This was Windsor in 1845, and what we have, just quickly to show you, is currently here is the castle wall as you head down Thames Street. Where the current green land is, it wasn't a moat, it was a slum. Back in 1845, some very proactive business people from the town, and along with the Crown, decided that Windsor needed to change. And so a group of residents, a group of business people and the Crown Estate got together and said, right, we don't want Windsor to become something that isn't right for us. We want Windsor to become something that's special and something different. And because of that, what happened was Windsor did not suffer the damage that a number of other towns have fell foul of over time. And most of our cherished buildings, our stations, remain today and provide us in Windsor with the very town that we all love, whether we work here, whether we live here. This town is in our heart. The heritage of Windsor is its unique selling point. It's what brings people to Windsor. It's what brings us here to stay and live here. And fundamentally, as you'll see as we go through some of the results of the research, that is sacrosanct. The heritage that is Windsor is sacrosanct. So far through the process of this neighbourhood plan, we've found the forum, we've publicised that, we've sought members of the forum, currently having in excess of about 60 members of the forum, and we've gone about building that evidence base. We had a vision day in the central station late last year, where we introduced some of our themes and concepts that were born out of the steering group and the forum's thoughts and ideas, which largely were part of the historical data gathered through the Windsor District Chamber of Commerce, through the Windsor Eton Town Partnership. We presented that. We've then since carried out further research and study. We've taken account of a significant amount of secondary surveys and studies that have been carried out, and one or two tertiary. And I'll pull up a list in a second and you'll see kind of, it's too small to see, but there's a long list of evidence. And we're now at the stage of saying, okay, right, well, having gathered that evidence, having gathered the concept of what it is those that use Windsor Town Centre are looking for, we're now at the point where we want to introduce this draft policy document. From here, we go into further consultation and inspection, and Dermot will talk about the future a little bit later. Ultimately, at the end of the entire process, there will be an inspector who looks at the neighbourhood plan, and then we'll ask business ratepayers, residents, to vote yes or no. Simple as that. The concept is to defend what is unique about Windsor from abject or dangerous or unnecessary or unwanted planning applications over the next 15 years. That's one page, and that's the other. At the very end of the presentation, there are some packs to take away with you, and on our website there's also a full copy of the draft plan for those of you that haven't necessarily received it by email so far. And that list is detailed in there, so you can obviously go through that. As we all know around this room today, because this is where we live and work and love, Windsor is all about the heritage, it's about the environment, it's the look and the feel, it's ensuring that we retain our parks and our open spaces. We are a retail town. For the purposes of today, we determine retail as basically not just a shop, but a cafe and a restaurant and a pub and a bar, whatever it may be, where people come to spend their hard-earned money and where they come to enjoy central Windsor. We do have a number of businesses in the town centre that aren't retail orientated, so we have offices obviously, although there are a diminishing number of those, which we'll come on to. As we all know, getting in and out of Windsor can be a problem, parking in Windsor can be a problem, and inevitably through the course of the research that has been flagged up as a significant issue. So our objectives, number one, and this runs as a central theme through everything that we do, is to ensure the conservation and the enhancement of the historic environment. We want to raise some of the standards. Our research has shown that some of our visitors, some of our users are a little surprised maybe that there aren't certain brands in the town centre, that there aren't certain businesses that are here. And we need to take account of that. We've got some great unique features within Windsor, and we've got one or two areas that need some focus and improvement. I think most of us in this room here still mourn the loss of the John Lewis that was Cayley's. And most of us would like to see something of that ilk coming back, something of that quality coming back. And for the good of all, economic growth. We need to grow. We need to make sure that as we continue out of this recession, that Windsor continues to thrive. We've been quite well protected through the course of the recession. because of the heritage, because of the unique selling points that are Windsor. But it's for that very reason that we cannot rest on our laurels. As everybody else now begins to raise their game, as everybody else invests in their towns, we need to concentrate on what is it that brings people to Windsor. And it is that heritage, it is that look and feel, and that's what has to be paramount. So, I won't go through this again, but essentially this is purely a case of reiterating that we are in draft format and our policies have come from consultation. The general design principles that we have is obviously aesthetics. One of the key points to make is that as far as we're concerned for Windsor, we wish to insist on a higher standard of building, a higher standard of development than is sufficient for the national policy framework. We want the aspirations of new businesses of the we want the aspirations of the neighbourhood plan to ensure that new businesses coming into the town centre, new buildings, deliver that five-star feel, that Windsor feel, that British feel. We want to ensure that any property has a density and a height, I'll come on to that a little bit later, that is reflective of what's right in the town centre. So we want to ensure that property is in line with the Georgian and the Edwardian feel that we have. We want to ensure that views of the castle are maintained. We don't want high-storey, high-rise apartments just so a tick can go in a box by the borough for hitting their residential numbers as are required. So we want to defend that. We want the look and the feel as you approach Windsor, you come into Windsor as a user, as a resident, as a visitor, as a guest, as a friend, as a relative. You feel you're being welcomed into the town that is Windsor, that is something unique. And having the view of the castle is very much a part of that. Having the riverside as a real focus is a part of that. Parking I've touched on, and there's more to talk about parking as we move forward, but it's very clear we are a little strangled. We do suffer with diminishing repeat visits and diminishing referrals from people because they've had a difficult time getting into Windsor, particularly on a weekend. And when they get here, they can spend half an hour to an hour trying to find a space. When they find a space, it costs them £300 to park for the day. Not quite, but you get my drift. And then shop fronts. From our perspective, we're not here to reinvent the wheel. We are working in conjunction with the borough currently, who are designing a new shopfront policy, and we are trying to influence that to ensure, as I said already, that the standards and the quality that come into Windsor as we move forwards are defended to give us that look and feel, that heritage that we have. We've had a couple of disasters recently, some people may say, and we want to stop that. We want to put that line in the sand. We're not about having Blackpool illuminations in the middle of Windsor. That's not what we're looking for. We have, for those of you that are aware of this website, Flickr. We have a Flickr website, which is just a website full of photos. We've been around the town, we've been around our area. It's flickr.com/Windsor 2030, if you want to just note that down. We have examples of good, we have examples of bad design, bad, good buildings. Very interesting to have a flick through that yourselves, and you'll get an interesting feel. From our point of view, a very difficult challenge, but nevertheless one we're prepared to take on. It isn't just about the shop front, it's about the first floor, it's about the second floor. And when you look, and you take that time to actually look at the building itself, rather than as we walk down the high street, looking at the shop fronts, we only ever look up when the crowns are above us at Christmas. But actually, when you look above, there are some shocking examples of what this town looks like, and they've been allowed to go. We'll take all the questions at the end, sir. Thank you.
It's not a question. Can you just repeat that?
Flickr.
It's illegible.
Yeah, no, it's okay. It's FLIKR facebook.com/Windsor 2030.
It's on Facebook also.
Yeah, so yeah. Okay. Parking then, okay. This is a biggie. Biggie for businesses. I'm a business ratepayer, I have a business in the centre of town, I have to park 15-minute walk away. Very frustrating because you get wet, you turn up to work looking a mess. Very difficult for customers in certain circumstances to quickly pop in and drop things off. Nevertheless, we have to protect the look and the feel. We are restricted by our river, we're restricted by castle grounds, we are a kind of triangle. We don't have that much space. And what we don't want to see is any additional overground parking. We don't want to see anything popping up that, as we said already, fundamentally doesn't give us the look and the feel of Windsor. So we've taken a couple of highlights here in terms of needing net parking supplemented through the planning process. And as a concept, obviously, and a couple of these have been around for a little while, underneath Bachelor's Acre, underneath Alexander Gardens, behind York House where the council offices are, there is the potential that that building may have a change of use, and there may be the ability to add some additional parking in there. Victoria Street has capacity potentially, whether it goes down or up to be decided in the future, but these are designated parking sites already. King Edward VII, as you head out on the Datchet Road, that's sunken down already, potentially could be looked at. East Berkshire College car park, although doesn't fall within our boundary, is a point of discussion to potentially have. And then Hog Common, again similarly so, all to be looked at. So the key here again to repeat that there should be no loss of public realm. It should preserve or enhance the historic views, and these specific locations at this point in time are what we have come up with as part of our first draft. As far as the central district is concerned, there are some places that we think can be improved, that can be given perhaps a helping hand should the right planning application come forward. Pescod Place, as we've termed it, and you get an idea here of the heritage and the look and the feel of the beautiful Windsor and the Georgian and Edwardian buildings that aren't quite there. Currently, there is a big post office, there's a half-empty telephone exchange, there's a few empty bars and clubs that are and empty offices as you come down the bottom of Pescod Street and take a left. That's an area that we feel could actually be used and framed to invite somebody like a John Lewis back into Windsor, to enhance the journey into town from Victoria Street end of town, which currently is a little bit dismal, and actually raise the profile of Windsor, bring something new to the town, something that would add value to us. It would need to be a mixed-use site, so there needs to be an account taken of additional parking and convenience. There needs to be some allocation for some family apartments potentially, but we think that really could be used as a very good enhancement of the town centre. Safeguards, as we've mentioned, parking, touched on it already. We know the borough have to fill additional residential numbers over the course of the next 12 years. So should something come to the fore, that's a very big site. When you look at it on a map, as we can show you a little later, it's a big area and there's a lot that could be done there potentially. King Edward Court, our modern-ish shopping centre. It's gone through a change of hands of ownership over the last 12 months or so. So we're trying to engage currently with the new owners about their thoughts and their concepts and ideas, we're sort of trying to move forwards with them on that. But there is some spare capacity within Kenwood Court, and there are some potential ideas that we could float with them. But again, the safeguards are the visual aspect from outside of the centre needs to be maintained or improved. The quality and the quantity of the parking provision needs to be improved. And the shopper's experience within the centre, again, needs to be improved. St Leonard's Road, bottom of Lower Pescod Street. As you've seen very recently, obviously, the lower end of Pescod Street has now been properly pedestrianised, and I think everybody agrees that the look is right. It's the right stone, it's the right feel. What we would like to do is we would like to really focus on that small business independent sector of Windsor, the St Leonard's Village as we want to term it. The concept that as you come down Lower Pescod Street, as you walk past the Aventi, Cafe Nero, that area, that maybe we introduce something like a Carnaby Street style iron arch that highlights St Leonard's Village, that actually then can be used to promote a village quarter, a concept where independent businesses, small businesses can maybe thrive, where we can really offer something for the residents beyond just the high street and the mass market stores that are King Edward Court, that are Central Station and Upper Pescod Street. Something where, you know, we get the local butcher back. We've probably got a fishmonger already, but somewhere where more people buy some bikes. A real focus. Also, it enables, from a strategy perspective, potentially, that we can actually attract some visitors to stay a bit longer in town. We can have people maybe coming and staying overnight rather than just day visiting. We can encourage greater spend in the evening during the week, potentially. You know, there's no reason we couldn't have a 5-star restaurant in that part of town moving forwards. We can work with the visitor management team to look at the concept with the visitors to the town of a bit like the MV card concept that currently is working within Windsor Royal Shopping, but something actually that's more about the small businesses in the town that can't be part of a big company that introduced these things. So it's trying to facilitate that as a concept, really raising the profile of what actually is a real nice part of Windsor that perhaps not enough people know about, not enough people use. Needs to be distinct, and it needs to be something that enhances a part of the town. I'll come back to that one in a second. You've seen this before. As we all know at the moment, we have a car park adjacent to the river. We have, some may perceive, overgrown trees that have been left and not managed properly, that actually do exactly the opposite of what we said already, is to enhance and deliver that beautiful vista of the castle, that introduction to Windsor that we should be looking at delivering more so. We'd like Alexander Gardens to grow. We want Alexander Gardens to become a bigger part of the public realm. We would like the riverside to become as an important part of your visit to Windsor, an important part of your day out in Windsor, and perhaps the way you would prefer to come into Windsor rather than walking or driving down Arthur Road or Clarence Road. There's huge potential for that area. and we want to really kind of develop it and look at ways to enhance that vista. One of the issues that we have is obviously a flood defence. We have a coach car park is rammed full in the summer and is fairly empty in the winter, a large expanse of space that we would like to see moved, so that again the public realm could be improved. We've mentioned already we have transport problems with Windsor. We have too many cars using the road, we have a growing problem with pollution, we have more and more coaches coming into the town, we have more and more people adding cars to their homes, and we need to look at managing the taxis better, we need to look at managing cycling better, we need to look at managing the buses better, and what we would like to see is some form of integrated transport hub where we can actually bring people into a location that is for the good of everybody. We don't have a concept on exactly it yet, and obviously we're all aware of the Windsor Link Railway scheme, which currently sits with the borough as part of their strategy review. So we can't ignore that. We need to accept that that is currently on the table with powers above our pay grade. But what we have done is to ensure that as this develops, access to the town is improved, that the look and the feel of that access is improved, that the public realm is improved, we integrate public transport and taxis properly, as well as enhancing parking. So the safeguards that we can put in place as far as planning policy is concerned, which is where as a neighbourhood plan we're able to say what is or isn't our desire. Views of the castle and the river shall be preserved or enhanced, as we've said already. The public pleasure parks and the riverside shall be preserved or enhanced. Any building shall celebrate the tradition, as we said already, that Georgian Edwardian feel. It needs to be the right look and the feel. Building on the coach and the car park would be supported so long as alternatives can be found, consistent with what we've already mentioned. And we don't just want a railway station, we want a proper solution to parking, bus, taxi, cycle issues in the town centre, so that the good of everybody is delivered and people can celebrate what's great about Windsor, you know, enhance what it is that you're coming to Windsor for, that heritage, that enjoyable day out. As I said already, this is a draft plan. This is forming the framework for this first part now of our consultation process. So we do welcome comments, we do welcome suggestions and feedback, and it is wonderful to see so many people in the room today who have Windsor in their hearts, that are interested in what's going to go on in the town centre, want to ensure that their voice is heard, and we're here to hear that. So thank you for your time. I will hand over to Dermot now as chair, just to take the meeting on. I appreciate it. Thank you for listening. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil, for that, and for dealing with it all yourself. Just as a side note, that is the work of a subgroup, a policy writing subgroup that has been set up, and they've been working hard, taking the evidence base, going and